And let me read my little spiel here. So thank you, Megan, for the opportunity to say a few words and share some caregiving resources with the guests at this event. My name is Linda, and I'm a volunteer. Here at AARP New Hampshire, we are focused on the health, financial security, and social connections critical to the well-being of the 50+ in the Granite State. We carry out our work through targeted advocacy at the state and federal levels, compelling engagement of the 50+ community statewide, and also serving as a trusted resource for information for our members and the public. In a moment, I'll be sharing some helpful resources with you, but first I want to welcome you to this virtual gathering. Whether you're a new caregiver or an experienced caregiver, AARP is here to support you. Balancing caretaking responsibilities with work or other family obligations can feel overwhelming, even in the best of times. I'd like to stress that it's okay to reach out for support when you need it. Caregiving for a loved one is one of the most important roles you'll play as a friend or a family member, but no one should try to approach the responsibilities of caregiving alone. AARP created local caregiving resource guides to help family caregivers access key programs, services, and agencies in their community. Everything from health, legal, and financial assistance to respite care. I'll be putting a link to the resource guide webpage in the chat after Megan starts to give you the instructions. All you have to do is click on the state to access the guide. If you are starting to think about the need to become a caregiver, AARP has a guide called Prepare to Care, which may help as you start your caregiving journey. Versions of this guide are available in multiple languages, as well as for specific audiences such as veterans and military families and the LGBTQ community. I'll put a link to that in the website, in the chat, as well. In addition to these great resources, you can find numerous stories, articles, and more helpful information on the AARP Caregiving website. AARP provides lots of opportunities to connect with your community and one another without leaving home. To try virtual offerings like movie watch parties, coffee chats, and exercise classes, you visit aarp.org /near you. It's very important that caregivers also make time to care for themselves. So we are so very glad that you're joining us tonight and allowing yourself to take a break and enjoy a fun activity. Caregivers here in New Hampshire have certainly had their fair share of challenges this past year, but we at AARP New Hampshire are here to support you. We hope you enjoy tonight's creative night in, and back to you, Megan.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Linda is a wonderful volunteer from the AARP New Hampshire team, and it's always a pleasure to have her to kick off our classes, paint with us, and really just set the tone. So Linda, thank you for being thorough with your overview, but she'll also be putting a ton of links into the chat window over the next 10 minutes or so. So be sure to check those out. If there's any of those links you see you like, just click on them and have them open up in your browser so you can look at them after. So even if you click on a few, just to have them available for after class is always a good thing, because there is a variety of events, you know, both in person and virtual, that you folks can certainly take advantage of. The recording will be available after class. It will be emailed to you directly via, I think they have a YouTube channel where the video is posted, if I'm correct or wrong. So for anyone that's new here, my name is Megan, and it's a pleasure to work with AARP New Hampshire. We do these classes monthly, and our goal here is for you to relax and unwind and to really just practice your creativity. Art is something that everyone has a different level of experience with, especially with painting. We like to make these classes accessible. That's why you bring your own supplies. So what does that mean? That means if you have just watercolors in your house, or if you have just colored pencils, you should still join us. You don't always need to have acrylic paints. Use whatever you have. If you have crayons from your grandkids, use those. Who cares? Just join us. There's a lot of like-minded, wonderful people here to enjoy the event together. I like to keep things easy. And sometimes they'll offer level 1 and level 2 tips, right? So if you've painted before, you can take advantage of some of the level 2 tips. One of the things you'll feel out in these classes is I always want you to go at your own speed, okay? So everyone comes and joins as themselves, and I want to make sure that you are doing just that. Don't worry if you are behind, if you're ahead, etc. Okay, so we're here just to have fun. That's the most important thing. So we'll go ahead and get started. We are painting this adorable spring goat tonight. I'll review the supplies. Briefly. You need something to paint on or draw on or whatever you're using for your medium. I'm using acrylic paper. I typically use 11 by 14, which is a great size, but you can use any size that you want. You'll need paints of some kind, you know, whatever your medium is. And I have the color of the rainbow here in front of me. So I have red and blue and yellow and green, black and white. But with all my classes, I'll always just encourage you to have the basic colors, those primary colors of blue, red, and yellow, and I'll teach you how to blend and mix along the way. Now, in addition to your paints, you'll need something to mix colors on. And I've been using recently, it's called palette paper. It's kind of like wax paper. If you don't have any of this, just grab a small plate from your kitchen, paper plate or a dinner plate. This acrylic paint's going to come off of anything, but I'll teach you how to blend and mix colors along the way. So I'll be using this paper to mix my colors on. In addition to your paints, you'll need a cup of water to rinse your brushes. You'll need a small plate again to mix your colors. And I always grab a paper towel. So here's my cup of water. I like to reuse these solo cups for my classes to be resourceful. And I have just a select a sheet paper towel for messes. Okay, so have that nearby. And then I have a pencil as a bonus item for tonight. If folks could just make sure you're muted as you're joining. We're getting a little bit of background noise. That would be great if you could just verify that. Make sure you're muted. I have a pencil for a little bit of sketching for our goat. And I'll go over that in a minute, so don't start sketching yet. And then I have an array of brushes. So I have some fine tip brushes, and I have a medium kind of 1/2-inch flat tip brush. All right, so lots of little things that we're getting prepared for. One of the first things you get to decide as an artist tonight is the orientation of your picture. If you want to have your painting portrait, you can have it vertical. If you wanted to turn it on its side and do horizontal, that's fine too. You as the artist, you can always make those choices at the beginning of these classes, so don't worry too much. The next thing you get to decide as we get going is if you wanted to paint the background. Now, for some of the early folks that joined, I said, hey, if you want to start painting your background, a color, feel free. The inspiration, it's like a plain white background, but I thought like a nice yellow would be nice, or like an ombre yellow, like a light yellow might be fun. So we're going to spend the first 10 minutes or so. If you wanted to add any light, even a water wash of color, you could. And then once we're done the background portion, we're going to do a little bit of sketching with our pencil to boost our confidence with our goat. Okay. Some of our goats, they may be baby goats. Some of our goats may be a strong masculine male goat. We're not sure how those goats are going to come out yet, but we're going to have fun with it. You can pick and choose the colors that you want for your goat along the way too. But let's just start painting the background of a color of choice here. And Linda, our host, can make sure that folks are muted as much as possible here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by taking a little bit of this yellow. And this is like a sunshine, you know, regular old yellow. I'm going to put a little bit of that over here on the side. Now I'm not going to need too much of it. And I'm going to take a little bit of white paint. And I'm going to soften this. I don't want a bright yellow background. So I'm going to open up this paint. I'm going to put some white paint over here on my plate or on my palette. Now I'm going to do a really, really light kind of ombre color here. And I don't even need to use all this, but I'm just going to take a little bit of white paint. I'm going to bring a little bit of the yellow into it. Just nearby. I'm going to start mixing it around. You don't need to do like a full coat of yellow or you can do any light color you want. You could do like a light minty green. That would look really pretty. You could do a light.
Megan, what was that third color?
Oh, this is just yellow and white mixed together over
Oh,
here.
okay, I thought you had a third one.
Nope. Nope. So I am just going to keep it really easy, and I may not even paint the whole background. I may do an ombre, which is just using a little bit of water, like halfway down. So anything you want to do to this background, feel free. And I'm not going to be shy about putting this paint on. So I want you to pick one orientation of your brush stroke. I'm picking horizontal. I might dip my brush in a little bit of water just to move this paint around. So I'm using really basic acrylic craft paint. I'm not using anything too fancy. Again, not everybody has a ton of money to spend on fancy paints. So I don't use fancy paints in these classes because I want to show everyone and make it clear how accessible it is to paint at home for fun.
Hi, Megan. Megan, which is a better yellow, lemon or medium yellow?
Lemon, you're going to get more of a punch. So I would use medium tonight.
Medium would be lighter.
You could even use ochre if you have it. Yeah.
I have yellow.
Mine's pretty, looks pretty lemony, but it's
Yellow.
just what I got. So.
OCHRE, what is that?
Okra.
Okra. That looks mustardy.
Yeah, it's a little mustardy, but it'd be really soft if you mixed it with a little bit of white.
Oh, so that's better than the medium?
I would use, you could use either. It doesn't matter. I would use the medium yellow.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So I'm going to grab some tape to hold my paper down as folks are working away. All right. I usually use paper that is attached to a pad, and I ripped off a sheet tonight to put it on this, and it's just rolling up. So if you ever do that, you can always rip it off the pad, but you don't have to. I will move the picture down. Yes, absolutely. People are like, we want to see the baby goat.
So it seems to be a problem. Well, I'm noticing some things downstairs. Life happens in your home.
Perfect. Folks are being muted. The baby goat has been moved down here. And you can paint as much or as little as you want to on this background. I'm just doing it to just warm things up a little bit. And I'm using water on my brush. See how nice and soft this is? I'm doing smooth, continuous brush strokes. If you want to do an ombre and get a little fancy, you can do a little orange. You can bring in a little pink at the bottom. That could be kind of fun. In these classes, I love doing things outside the box. It just shows you what it's like just to take these little risks with these ideas that you have. And it's just really fun to be open to that. So we always start these classes with an idea or an inspiration, but I want you to just try to be in the moment and just, if you have an idea to evolve the painting, feel free to do that. It takes a little while to do that, like to kind of let go of following along so strictly. So I respect that. But you can see that I'm just doing like a nice soft yellow. The bottom of my painting is down here. I'm just working my way down.
May I
So
ask
again,
a
we'll just spend the first
question
10
about the
minutes or so
paper?
just working your way down.
Megan, somebody had a question about the paper.
I'm not sure if I'm using the right side. My blue, I chose a blue background and it's all streaky. What am I
Yeah.
doing wrong?
Are you using water?
Yes.
Just work the water in. Just either add a little bit more water, add a little bit more paint, so it's a little bit more smooth.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, you kind of just have to like work it in a little bit. Okay. I am just looking if folks had a question around paper. I don't see it.
I think that was just her question.
Oh,
That was
about the
her question.
colors. Okay,
Yeah, that was it.
got it. Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Got it. All right, cool. So I'm going to zoom this up a little bit, move this down. Sorry, it will refocus once I keep painting. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work my way down. This looks like a lemon yellow here. It's really a little softer in person. And I'm dipping my brush in water over here on the other side to help move things around. So just take your time. I'm going pretty quickly because we don't need to, there's no perfection here. Sometimes if you get streaks, just let it dry. You can come back to it. You can put, I always say, put a little elbow or put a little pressure. You can, once the paint pigment, you can see it moving around a little bit. If you put a little bit of water, it helps with the blending. I do have some streaks. Sorry, it's not, it keeps going in and out, so I apologize, the focusing is wrong. It's automatic focusing on my camera.
People are asking again about the recording, if the recording is going to be automatically emailed to people and when available, and it will be emailed to people, and it's usually a few days after the event.
Yes, that's accurate. Yeah, and there is, I believe it's through a YouTube channel, so it's a great way to kind of, you can follow the YouTube channel for AARP New Hampshire, where you can kind of get notifications on lots of different
Yes.
reporting too. So
Yeah,
it's
and
kind
I'll put that in the chat as
yeah, I
well.
would. It's a great, I didn't even know about it until a few months ago. And it's quite nice to see that. Sorry, it keeps focusing in and out. I don't know why it's doing that. So apologies. Maybe I'll zoom down a little bit more. Maybe that will stop doing it. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry. So we'll let this dry and I'll keep my hand in focus so it doesn't hopefully go in and out a ton of times. So take the next, few minutes here to just wrap up the background painting. I used a lot of water on mine, so it's going to take a minute to dry because I really wanted like a soft appeal for the background itself. Sometimes when you don't have a ton of white paint, you can use water to kind of supplement the softness, which is really nice. So that's always something to consider. If you don't want to use a ton of white paint to lighten a yellow, you can use water to really thin out like a light yellow in itself. So you can consider that. All right. I love the idea of a nice light minty green would have been really nice for the background too, or a nice light blue.
Megan, we got a couple of late joiners that are saying, what kind of paper and paints are you using just so that they can be prepared for the next lesson?
Yeah, so I'm using basic acrylic paints. You can get them at any craft store. You don't need to buy the fancy ones. You can buy the apple barrels. You can buy the Arsex. You can buy any brand. It's totally fine. You could even use your kids' craft paints if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. But any multi-purpose craft paint is totally fine. Reeves is a great company. I have these little tubes that I've mailed in my paint kits in the past. Reeves is a little more expensive. I don't use them during these classes because I like to use basic craft paints just so people know you can paint with anything. The paper I use is, I don't think I have the cover with me, but I use 11 by 14. Let me go see if I can find it really quick. Right here.
Strathmore?
Not that one. Yeah, I don't know the brand off the top of my head, but it's a blue brand. I'll look it up if I have time in between the class here. But it's a great brand, but use really whatever you have on hand. But if you're ordering paper, let me see if I can find it really quick for you. As folks are letting their backgrounds dry, right? We can multitask.
Amazon has Strathmore, which was relatively inexpensive.
11 by 14. The one I buy is really affordable. canvas paper or acrylic paper. Here it is. Okay, the one I use is called Canson. I'll drop a link to it in the chat window. I've been using this forever and it's awesome. Oops, that's the goat. Let me just, here we go. So that's the link to the paper I use. It's called Canson XL Series, oil and acrylic paper. It's 24, you get 24 sheets and it says it's 20 bucks. So usually I say it's about 75 cents a sheet, which is great. It's really affordable. So I love this paper. The other thing, if folks are new to these classes, I love using, I have these frames in my studio. So if I commit to using 11 by 14s for my classes, I can swap in all of my different paintings over time and I can hang up my favorites. So if anybody has like a little craft studio, if you have a little spot in your home, maybe your doorway or whatever, you can put up 3 or 4 of these, maybe 2 or, of these frames that you can get at local craft stores. 11 by 14, you can swap in your artwork. It's so fun if you keep your size consistent. So that's always a really fun thing too. It keeps things fresh. We always like that, right? All right. So I'm getting to be a little bit more dry here. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to do a little sketching for our goat next. Okay. We're going to have a very realistic conversation here. So some of you may paint often and some of you may not. So the next portion of our class is a little drawing or sketching, which can be a little intimidating, right? We're here to be honest. You'll need a pencil and we are going to sketch our goat's head. We're going to position the head on the canvas. And then we're going to sketch the body and the ears. We're going to do basic outlining for some of the goat's elements. Drawing animals is not easy, okay? I'm saying it because I'm being honest with everyone, but we're going to do our best, okay? So you can decide how big or how small you want your goat to be. The goat's head for me is going to be in the middle of the canvas. Okay. So if I grab an object, I have a notepad here. This is going to be my goat's head. I'm going to leave room above the goat's head and I'll bring this down a little bit. We're doing a little planning here. That's what we're talking through. So if this is the top of my canvas, I'm leaving room above the goat's head for the flower crown, right? And I'm going to center my goat's head in the middle. And maybe I just like make a little bit of a line right here. See that? Grab anything around, it doesn't matter. It could be a phone, it could be anything. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to center this in the middle. So I know where the top of my goat's head is going to be. And then my flowers, maybe they'll come up to about here. So I made another little dot. This is just proportion planning, okay? Then you get to determine how big you want your goat's head to be, okay? This is where our baby goat comes into play and our big goats, and this is where the animals really just come to life. So I'm using a pencil. I have a dot for the top of the head. And yes, if anybody's paper is still wet or canvas is still wet, just take a minute. You're not going to be behind by any means. Just let it dry. And then we are going to find where the chin of the goat is going to be. So this is where you can determine how big your head is going to be or not. Now for me, my goat is positioned, my head is going to be kind of right in the middle of the canvas. If you want your goat's head to be a little higher, you can position that. For me, I'm going to remove my notepad here. And I'm going to come down straight and I'm going to say, this is where the chin of my goat's going to be. So this is like top of the forehead down to the chin. Okay. And I'm just doing it like that. Now I'm going to zoom out so you can see my whole canvas here. There we go. So this is the lower dot and I'm just doing dots on my pencil so you can see. So the top of my forehead is here. I made a little dot for my flower crown. And then you can start to play with the width of the face. So the chin of the goat, you could always start here. You could also start with how wide you want your head to be. So maybe we'll do the sides of the head next. So you're coming off the center here. Now, if we were in a true drawing class, we would like draw a line down the middle of the face. We would go over with a cross here. I'm just using my finger on the right and my finger on the left, my finger and my pencil on the left, figure out how wide I want my goat's head to be. Now start with a more narrow, and this is kind of, down a little bit. Just make little dots and just start kind of shaping the goat's head. It's going to be a little wider, and just start with some light sketches. And then this is maybe where the eyes are, the jaw is going to come down, and then it's going to kind of come in pretty sternly. And you want the face to be fairly long, and you want it to be fairly even from one side to another. So you can play with dropping the chin down so it's a little longer if you want to. Okay. So we're going to put lots of flowers and stuff up here. The top of the head can be boxy. It doesn't need to be fancy. You can see I have a little bit of a curvature here. So play with the jaw. We're going to add, Billy Goat's gruff down here. So it doesn't need to be perfect. But there's a chin area. And we'll make this fuzzy and scruffy, okay? For our baby goat. Or you might have a mama goat, or you might have a big papa goat that comes out. Who knows what kind of animal is going to happen here. It's part of the fun. Pencil will erase on top of paint, which is really awesome. And I want nice, soft, light lines if possible. We're going to be using some browns on the edges, but once you have some basic shapes in, you want a firm jawline too, which I have pretty well here. So coming straight down and then coming in. There's a nice firm jawline for our baby goat. So play with that. And then once you feel like you have your head pretty well set, you can kind of come like halfway on the neck and kind of give your baby goat a little bit of a neck coming down and out. And you can give him a little shoulders. And just do some light sketching. And you can come all the way down off the page. You don't have to. I'm just coming down off the page for my baby goat. Now he's got to have some shoulders, so give him a little bit of a shoulder. You can determine how big or wide you want to be here. But the reason we're doing this with pencil is because, again, animals are hard to sketch and paint. So it boosts our confidence with the positioning. So I know folks were waiting for their backgrounds to dry. You can always change these shapes, but it just it boosts our confidence so we can just start painting in a little bit here. I'm not going to sketch the flowers in. I kept this dot up here just to know where I wanted to put those. And whenever you sketch, you don't want to draw all the details. But it is important that we'll get in these ears too. So some of you are probably thinking about the ears, and the eye positioning is fairly important in the nose. So we'll probably sketch kind of the lines for the nose for like gently, and we'll sketch the ears as well. But the eyes are pretty important. The eyes for the goat, as you can see, are kind of on the outside of the head. They're not in the middle, like a human. They're like kind of more on the outside, and they're kind of where the straight part of the head starts. So the top of the goat's head can even kind of bulge out a little bit. Like if you want to give it these like eyebrow bones, you can kind of give it a little bit of dimension. But the eyes are right here. And the eyes are kind of slanted in a little bit, and they're kind of rounded. So it might look a little evil to get going, but they're kind of rounded on the outside and a little more straight on the inside. So you can just start to, kind of looks like a weird snake Pokemon situation happening right now. But giving it some eyes.
Okay, you got me laughing. A snake Pokemon.
Doesn't it look like a snake Pokemon?
Yeah.
We're gonna give it ears in a minute, I promise, and we'll give it a smile. So there's the eyes. They're kind of positioned on the outside of the head. And then one thing that might be helpful for you is to give the goat some of these lines down the middle of the nose. It's really gonna look like a snake here in a minute. You can kind of give it these lines, and then you can figure out where you want the nose to be. So the nose for me, it's kind of like an upside down rounded triangle. And this is where it's going to start to look like more of an animal, like a different animal. Kind of looks like a teddy bear a little bit. And you're going to kind of create that snout area. So I'm not doing a ton of sketching, but I'm showing you what it's like to kind of create this mouth. And this is where you can also kind of extend the jaw down if you need to. So see how I use lines kind of on the outside of these eyes, just to kind of bring it down. And we'll add these cute little ears in too. So the ears are kind of rounded. This is, it's just all starting place, right? So look, that ear makes it look like a little goat. Thank goodness. No longer a Pokemon snake here. I'll put that there. The ears kind of, they kind of start above the eye a little bit, and they're going to kind of come out and down. You're going to have a little bit of a wave. They're going to be rounded at the end. They're more narrow. If they go off the page, it's okay. And you can make them as big or as small as you want from a height perspective. So you can play with those little baby goat. You can add in a little line for a mouth if you want. Again, we're not going to do too many details here, but I want you to play with the shape of the face. You can see my head is fairly small. That is what is keeping this baby goat look smaller. I could easily make my head a little bigger. So see how I extended the line down from the head? If you need to make your head bigger or smaller, feel free to do that, right? This is where we make modifications before we start painting. Huge, right? So I'm
Megan,
going to bring my goat's chin down a little bit.
someone is asking if you can just move the picture down a little bit so they can see the goat.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Yeah, I'll cover up my ear.
Thank you.
So I'm moving you can adjust your jawline. Once you get the ears in, you can adjust your jawline of your goat. For me, the jawline and the shape of the face is really important. Now we could paint all this and just not sketch it, but I think it's valuable to sketch it because you have a little bit more control over the shape as an artist if you take a minute to sketch it. You'll also be a little bit happier at the end of class, believe it or not. So I kind of have a smile in here. You can see I'm playing with this jawline. You can make it as like more firm if you want to make it more firm with a more strong diagonal angle line. But I'm not going to do too much more detail work. My eyes are going to be more rounded, but at least I have positioning, right? I can say my eyes again are not done. The stripes on my face are not done. I'm not worried about any of that. But at least if you get a little bit of a nose in, so we started with like a rounded triangle, you can give it a little bit of a snout, like with little, like you can round it out a little bit. Again, I'm not going to go into crazy detail right now. But you can kind of round your nose if you want, just if that makes you feel better, that's fine. But I'm going to keep it here. I'm not going to do any more drawing because we're going to start painting. My ears are there. I'm going to probably modify what my ears look like, but I have a baby goat. And I'm going to make it fuzzy and fluffy and brown, and I'll add the flower crown on top. Okay, so you can see we're off to the races here. And I'll probably fix my mouth and all that. So I'm not too worried about that, but at least we're going in the right direction.
We cannot see the painting.
I'm sorry?
I just said that we cannot, you're moving all the time the goat, so we cannot follow
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry. I'll lay that down. There you go. And I'll drop the inspiration in the chat window again. All
Thank you,
right, let's
Megan.
drop it in there. Sorry, I didn't realize I was waving it around. I was just holding it. All right. So, if folks, take again as much time as you need to get the basic sketch of the goat down. And then when you're ready, you can join me. We're gonna do a light brown. We're gonna paint the goat. All the light browns, we'll be using light brown and a darker brown for some darker accents for the goat itself. And then we'll be filling the goat in with some lighter and darker tones, and we'll do the eyes and all that. So I will teach you how to make a brown. Exactly. Yes, Anita, you are reading my mind here. I will show you exactly how to make a brown out of these natural colors. So to make brown, you have to embrace your inner 4-year-old. You're going to mix red, blue, and yellow all together at the same time. Red, blue, and yellow will give you brown. Green, to make green is red or blue and yellow. I'm going to use my bigger brush to do that. But sometimes mixing red and green, those Christmas colors, will give you brown as well. So that's basically how you get there. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and a little bit of blue. And you can see I'm kind of just stealing from one to the other. And I'm just making a green. The trick is making enough brown so you don't run out. If you've ever painted before, that's one of the hardest things. So I'm going to make a green of choice here. This is a nice grass green. And I'll move this over just in case if anybody needs to see my goat behind. So there's a green. I have a pretty good amount. I think it should be enough. If not, I can always make more. And then I'm going to take a red. And I'm just going to put the red nearby. I don't ever like dumping one color into another because you lose a lot of control blending that way. So I'm just going to take a little bit of red and I'm going to put it right in my green. And red and green should give us brown. Now just do a little bit of red at a time. And then if it's, bringing in more yellow to this always helps. So just be really patient as you mix a brown. If you see more of a green tone coming out of your blend, add a little bit more red. If you see a little bit more of a blue tone, add a little bit more yellow. That green is a really helpful base. And you can see here, I'm getting a nice brown. I had to grab a little bit more yellow. It's so funny. Mixing brown in these classes is always entertaining because sometimes we get it right away. Like the color just happens. And other times we just sit here and we struggle to make brown. And if you've taken these classes before, you've watched me struggle make brown, even though I know what I'm doing, but sometimes it just doesn't come together as easily. So we just embrace the fact that we're humans and that it will all come together. And we don't rush ourselves, right? We should just laugh and just go with the flow. So this is a really dark brown. Well, it's not dark, it's like a milk chocolate brown, but I don't want this of a dark of a brown to be the base color of my goat. So this is where you can pick and choose what color goat you want. You could do like a dark chocolate brown goat if you wanted to, with like dark black accents. That could be really beautiful. We all know goats are tons of different colors. I'm going to do a lighter brown goat with some darker accents. So this brown that I have right here, this might be my darker accent. So I might just take some of this and put it over here on the side to save some of it as like my darker accent brown. So I just kind of grabbed a few dollops. I'm saving that here for a rainy day. And I probably won't need more than that. But then the white is my friend. So I'm going to grab a big scoop of my white and I'm going to make a lighter brown for the base color of my goat. And then I'm just going to start painting my goat in. And maybe I'll go around my jaw. We'll add, this is where you can kind of go at your own speed. You can add texture to your goat as you're painting him or her. If you want to, I'm just going to do kind of smooth lines. If you wanted to make it even softer than this, you could. Find a color that works for you. If you want to make it a little more orangey, you could add a little bit more red, a little bit more yellow to make it more of an orangey brown, right? So if I make it a little more orangey, let's see. This is where it's okay to experiment a little bit.
That's okay.
You can make it a little bit more orangey, a little bit more red. Just take your time. There, I just kind of made it a little bit more lively. And this is fairly dark in color, so I'm going to soften it just a little bit. So with these classes, we're just taking our time and doing base coats first, and then we'll bring our goat to life with more texture and shading. So if this seems really rudimentary to you, don't worry. It's always a process when we paint. So I'm just doing kind of smooth brush strokes down to fill the goat in. And it can all be one color right now. That's totally fine. Because in a minute, I'll show you. And I'm using this big brush because there's no harm here. We'll bring in some additional colors along the way. But it's good just to get a base coat painted. And I'm just doing smooth brush strokes. We will make him look scruffy. You can always, yeah, we're going to do one thing at a time here. Okay. So we are going to use this lighter color. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter. And we're going to do in between. So if you haven't done these lines yet for his brow, I'm going to kind of create the middle of his forehead. I'm just painting the middle of his forehead here, the base color of the goat. So there's these lines next to his eyes. I'm not going to paint those yet. Those are actually going to be lighter, but in between his forehead is the base color of his coat, right? So this is this light kind of chocolate brown is the base color of my goat. Same color that's down here. I'm just doing that in between his eyes and above his nose. So I'm just kind of creating like a little bit of a patch here. So just take your time and you can go all the way up to the top of his head. And I'm doing nice smooth brush strokes. I'm doing vertical brush strokes here on his forehead. And I'll add hair and, fur to this after, but these base coats will help us. And then we're going to have this line that is going to be a little lighter. So on the side of his face, and this is a boy goat apparently, I'm just going to do some of this basic base coat of color on the side of his face under his eye. And you can see how I'm leaving like this line right here. That's going to be lighter. So it's kind of like on top of his eye. Don't paint his eye, obviously. This is the base coat of his fur. And I'm just going to come under him and I'm just going to maybe give him a little goatee. See what I did there? You can do a single line. Don't go up too high, but you can maybe outline his jaw with this base color. And you can see it's a little lighter. So I'm kind of creating this like superhero stripe on his forehead. Like It's like a V almost. And I'm leaving his nose and his mouth all nice and light. But I'm using this base coat color. And I'm going around on top of his eye. And you all can do is just leave those stripes kind of on the inside of his eyes. And you can always touch that space up too. Don't worry. Then I'm leaving his mouth lighter. And I'm leaving his eyes untouched. I'm going to move my goat. Let's see, I'll move this down a little bit here. This is where our goat's going to start to come to life a little bit. So we're filling in the base coat of our goat first, right? Basic kind of skin tone. You can kind of use this color to outline your ears too, which is really fun. So maybe the tops and the bottoms of the ears we outline with this color. This is the base color of the goat. You can decide where you want to use lights and darks. Totally up to you. But this is nice and easy. Some of you are like, Megan, this is not easy. You got it. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to smile. You're actually having fun. I believe in you. You can do it. My goat is happening. If folks are getting gray, just go back to some of those basic colors again. Find your green, find your reds, and mix your browns. Okay. So we're doing basic goat color. Okay. So I have this like light brown. It kind of looks grayish, I guess, but I'm going to come in with more browns and kind of bring it to life a little bit. Okay. So I'm not doing the flower crown is last. I know that might disappoint so many of you. But I want you to have a nice base coat for the ears. So the outside of the ears, I want you to have this base coat. We're going to come in with a dark brown next. Okay. So anywhere you need to put and lay the foundation, maybe make a little bit of a lighter color for so for me, I need to paint a color in for this lighter area, like his stripes. So I might make that, I got to get a little bit more white, but it needs to be a little bit lighter. So maybe I'll do white there, right? Or like a whiter tone. So let's see. I want you to fill in this secondary color area around the mouth. The nose is going to be dark. The mouth will be black, but we need to paint in these stripes that are coming down on the face. So I'm going to probably do like a light brown, which is fairly white in color. Feel free to grab like a clean brush if you need to mix new colors. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to make a light brown, and then I'm just going to use this. There we go. I'm going to fill in. And this, it's easy as this, really, just fill in. I used white and a little bit of this brown. I'm going to leave, maybe I'll paint the eyes this color too, because we can use it as a base color. So your eyes are kind of like diagonals again. We're going to come in with a darker color for the eyes. But if you wanted to paint the eyes this lighter color as a base, you could. There's no harm there. But I have this nice light brown. Kind of has a little bit of a white tone to it. You can kind of have a little bit of a rounded arch using this lighter color on the top of the nose. And I'm just going to paint around the nose with this lighter color. And my nose is going to change likely, so I'm not too worried about it. You can still see a lot of my pencil marks, but we're going to come in with more layers of paint, so I'm not too worried about it. But we basically want like some of the detail on this baby goat's face to be a little bit lighter on the inside. And that's what this is. I'm gonna paint right over the mouth because I know I can see my pencil line still, and we'll use a darker brown or a black to do those details. Yep, and I want folks to know, just take your time. I'm not gonna rush through these steps. I just want to make sure we know what basic colors we're putting in where. And we're gonna stick with these two colors for right now until everyone's with us. It's these lighter colors on the face. I'm even going to put a little bit of this on the inside of the ear. So we're just filling in the basic colors of our baby goat right now. And then we'll add our dimension to this picture. Just gonna go nice and slow. And I want you to use whatever brushes you're comfortable. I'm still using fairly big brushes. This is like a medium-sized brush that I switched to kind of get into some of these nooks and crannies. But to make this lighter color, I basically just took a little bit of this brown for the base color, and I just mixed a little bit of white with it. That's what's over here. So the goal of this step is to have your entire goat painted, besides the nose. Well, my nose is the only thing that's not painted on this goat. I did the eyes, this base color, this lighter color, excuse me. You can even make your eyes a little whiter if you wanted to, so they stand out. Totally up to you. But this is where we just take our time and we just fill this in. And then we let it dry. If there's any questions, please let me know. But we're doing great on time. We'll do some really basic details for the goat's face. We'll be coming in with some darker brown and a smaller brush to give the goat some depth work on its neck and its ears and its eyes and its face. And then we will do the flower crown on top. So tonight's class might be a little longer than an hour and a half, but I'll give everybody a minute here to catch up with these basic colors. If you have painted the inside of your ears, oh, I have a question. You zoom up a little bit.
What brush did you use to outline the face of the goat?
I didn't outline the face. I just used, if you have a smaller brush than like a big one, I did smaller, I used a smaller brush for these lines down the middle of between its eyes.
Okay.
And around its mouth. So I used the base color of the goat, which is this color here, on the exterior of the face. So this is all like say I have a light brown, my goat is light brown. And then I have like a whitish outline around the mouth area.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only two colors that I have on here. I have the base color of the goat, so I'll call it a light brown. And then I have a light brown or a whitish brown for the lines on the face, around the nose, the eyes, and on the inside of the ears. So I only use two primary, basically paint colors for what I've painted here so far.
But what brush?
Any size brush works. I use everybody has different size brushes. Sorry, I just spilled some of my water. I use this brush, which is kind of, it's a flat tip brush, but you could use even a smaller brush. It really depends on what you have. It doesn't matter exactly what size you use. Use whatever you got, but I would downsize overall. So I'm going to give everyone a few minutes just to finish the base color of the goat, and then due to time, I'm going to keep moving along.
Megan, we did have a question about your next class, and that will be on June 12th.
Sorry. What was the question?
When your next class is, and it would be June 12th.
June 12th. Great. Yes. Sorry, I spilled a little bit of water. I was just grabbing a paper towel. All right. Yes, and we're painting a summer sailboat class in our June class. Be really fun. All right. When we paint, we may knock our water down. Or we may make a mess. These things happen. It's just a part of the experience. All right. Terrific. All right. I saved a catastrophe from happening over here. All right. So basic colors for the goat. And we're going to shift in just a minute to doing our dark brown accents for the goat. And this is really going to bring everything together from an outlining perspective. So this is where many of you are getting to know your goat. You may have a name for it. You may see a child goat, a baby goat, a mama goat, or a papa goat. If you wanted to add any characteristics about your goat into the chat window, we would love to learn about your goat. So please feel free to add those details. Animals are always so much fun to paint. We don't always do them in these classes because they can be a little intimidating, but this was just too cute to pass up. So Todd had a question around if I ever do watercolor. I do watercolor for fun every once in a while, but we typically stick with acrylics because they're a little more approachable, but I'll always encourage you to use watercolor if you want to. All right. I have someone has commented that their goat looks like a weird cow. I love that some people have different colored goats and darker goats. They resembles chocolate milk kind of color. So cocoa, that's awesome. Or cacao, that's awesome.
Megan, can you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted. We're good.
Yeah.
You all haven't missed anything.
Okay, thank you.
So the number of brush that I'm using is a number 2. Thank you. It must have gotten muted. I love that somebody's goat is purple. That is fantastic. This is a number 2 brush. I just want you to pick a brush that you're in control over. We're going to add some dark contrasting details to our goat next. Okay. So find a darker brown that is not the base color. So for me, I'm just grabbing my brown, one of my original browns, and I might lighten it a little bit, but you'll see what we're doing. Really easy. This is a really easy part. You're going to outline the jaw of the face. So underneath the eye, we're going to outline the jaw. You can add a little bit of a hair or two with a light brush stroke if you wanted to make it a little gruffy. Find a brush that works for you. See how I'm outlining the jaw? You can use a small brush. You can add some little hairs. See how I did some hairs over here to make it look a little scruffy?
Megan, his nose is white. What color is the surrounding? Like it looks like an off what to differentiate. See his nose looks like a white. Yeah.
Right
but
here?
around the snoot or whatever.
My nose is going to be like a black in a minute. It's going to be a gray.
Oh, and then what color is it around? Is that white or just?
It's a
white?
soft brown around it.
Oh,
It's very light in color. I did that intentionally.
thanks.
Yep. I let his nose plain for right now. So we're using this and we're just gonna give him a little bit of a gruff along the way. So you can use a really soft hand, go around his chin. See that? You can just be playful and open to how you use the tip of the brush to give your goat a little bit of a gruff. Okay. We're gonna do the same thing. On the underside of the eye. We're gonna kind of outline this whiter outline area. Now see how this is a lot of contrast right here? One of the things you can do is dip your brush in a little bit of water, get off some of that paint. You can see what this looks like. Watch this. With a little bit of water, you can blend in some of this darker color. And see how I'm slowly keeping some of the dark, but I'm also keeping some of the white too. And you can kind of use this water. See how it just it broke that dark line up a little bit. You're going to outline this white, this lighter area. But you can use a little water if you want to soften it. And you're going to leave this chin. This is where his mouth's going to be. This is where his chin is. See how it made his whole kind of jaw? This is kind of where his fur color is changing. That's really what this is supposed to resemble. But I'm dipping my brush in a little water. You can smudge your finger around, dab it around if you want. A little bit of water. If you don't want to use water here, you don't have to. I always love experimenting in these classes just for you to see what it looks like. The finger smudge isn't working that well for this technique, but you can, I'm actually going to grab a corner of a paper towel and just kind of wipe that. I would use your brush texture for this, not your finger for tonight's class, but you can play with it. But see how I'm kind of creating a little bit of an outline there. That's the intent. See, I'm using just a little bit there. If you want to use this and outline your nose, you can kind of get your nose in place. You can kind of bring this down a little bit. I'm going to make my nose darker, but if you wanted to paint it like this brown, you could. It's totally up to you. But this is where you can get your your nose in place a little bit. Kind of comes down to a point, just a touch. I'm going to do black mouth. If you wanted to play with your mouth with the brown, you could. To make your goat smile, you want to have the corners of the mouth be a little higher. And this is where your goat's personality is going to come to life. So it's kind of like a really wide W. And I'm just doing this is like a brown with some water on my brush. That's why it's not too dark. But this is where our animal is really going to start to come to life. So again, to recap, I went around the jaw with the darker color. I went around kind of the inside of this white stripping with the darker color. We're going to continue that on above the nose, kind of below the eyes and above the nose area. We're going to do a darker line here. And
Is the dark color black or dark brown?
Kind of play with texture. I'm going to do some sweeping up with water on my brush for the bridge of the goat's nose. This is in the brown area, not the white area. You can kind of give it some fur-like texture by swiping up. I'm just flicking upwards. I have water on my brush, so it's actually giving me some hair-like texture. So we all could spend, just to be totally honest and candid, we could spend 2 hours painting just this goat tonight. I'm going to be mindful of everybody's time. Just go take as much time as you need to. If you want to spend 2 hours painting this tonight, go for it. Not everyone may have that. If you wanted to outline all the way up on the inside of these white lines, you could go all the way up. And if you wanted to use, again, a little water and a little brown paint, you can add some more texture to the top of the head, maybe coming down. So you can do a brown line maybe from the top, but you can play with the tip of the brush, play with the bristles, and do soft sweeping streaks. And you can create some texture of hair maybe under the eyes, maybe on the top of the forehead. With the light and the brown, we'll do that for you. I can keep it really simple tonight, but the water will help soften. So if you have a lot of thick colors, try adding a little bit of water to your brush and see what happens. So everybody's going to go at their own speed at this point. But I'm going to use this dark brown to outline the eyes. The eyes are going to have some contrast. Again, I'm using a brush that has a nice fine kind of point on it, tip. The eyes are kind of slanted and then they're rounded on the outsides. We'll make the eyes look friendly in a minute here. Your animal may look a little angry until you get the eyes right. But I'll show you how to do that. Kind of outline the side of the goat's head, kind of above the eyes. The eyes are going to have some rounded in them too. So you're kind of creating this like teardrop shape first, and then you're going to round the inside. And then you can kind of start to make them look a little friendly. I'm kind of doing a little bit of like a dot on the like inner, it's like on the left eye, it's like on the inner right corner. And on the right eye, it's the inner left corner. Like it's looking at me like being all cute and dreamy. So play with your eyes. Eyes tell a lot about an animal, which I'm sure many of you are either laughing or cringing right now about your eye shapes. Weird things happen when you paint eyes for your animals. I'm just making my nose a little darker. I'm not going to spend too much time here. But I'm giving everybody an opportunity to play around. In addition, we're going to outline the ears. So we're just doing outlining details with this dark color. So if you feel like I'm moving quickly, you're not missing anything. I'm just using this dark color to outline the ears. You can kind of create a little bit of the fur-like texture kind of coming off the bottom of the ears. And we're keeping things pretty basic tonight. But I think it looks like a goat. I don't know how it turned out to be a goat, ladies and gents. Usually my animals don't always look the right way here. The cows are welcome. If anybody has a cow, like we welcome cows in tonight's class. Absolutely. This is a farmyard scene here. There's a little more detail we'll do on the body before we do the headpiece. And
about a lamb?
Play with some of this dark detail on the head and around the ears. We'll add some pink to the ears as well after, but you can play with where you want to add this contrast for the goat. Just use your eye. It's always just about, just take your time, have fun with it. I'm just coming back through in areas. Just because I moved on from one area of my painting, it doesn't mean it's done in that area. So one of the things to know about art is you're gonna work on an area and you're probably gonna come back to it, right? So just know it's okay to kind of leave one area and come back to it to keep working, okay? If you want to give your little goat a little bit of a gruff, you can kind of give them a little bit of a goatee kind of coming down from both points, maybe on the underside of the chin and even on the underside of the white part. So you can see there's a little bit, I did a little bit on the bottom here, and I'm using just the tip of the brush. So I'm playing with the bristles. the more you paint, the more you practice at how to kind of manipulate your tools. And I'm doing really soft, gentle brush strokes to kind of give my baby goat some fuzz. And I love this goatee kind of coming down from the bottom of the head here. And I have it coming down from the bottom of this chin, which is really fun. And my goat is smiling. Praise be. I love that Terry is painting her dog. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
If you're a goat or a lamb, lambs are totally yes. This is animals. This is just things happen.
We have a whole farm going here.
Oh my gosh, I knew that this was going to happen. It just, whatever animal, your inner spirit animal was going to come out tonight is what comes out. Oh, it's so funny. If your eyes are off, don't worry. You can paint over your eyes and fix them, okay? So white is your friend here. If your goat, my goat kind of looks like cross-eyed too a little bit, but he's kind of cute, so I think I'm going to leave it. If your eyes look weird, if your nose looks strange, just let it dry and paint over it. I haven't even touched the nose really. I just painted it like a dark brown. We're going to do the nose after. You can kind of do the outline of the nose, but we're going to add a little bit of grays, but I do want to be I do want to be conscious of time. One additional place you can use a dark color is down here on the body. So there is some darker kind of, there is another V on the chest down here. There's kind of another V. I'm going to just leave this blank. It's kind of like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch that's blank here. It's kind of like the crest of the chest for the goat. So I'm using 2 lines to kind of come down just to give a little bit of shading on the goat's chest. So and I'm going to use a little bit of water to kind of blend this in. So I just kind of did 2 lines, kind of like where the shoulder blades are for the goat. And I'm just going to blend this in with a little bit of water. It's just adding a little bit of contrast to the body. I'm just using my brush with a little water to kind of work in this darker color. But you can see how it kind of just breaks up the chest a little bit. And this is just with the darker color. You can add as much of this or as little of this as you want. You could use your finger to smudge. You could do a little bit of this like fuzz outlining, dark outlining on the side of the body down here if you wanted to. I'm not going to add a ton of dark outlining on the body because I want to keep it fairly lighter. But if you want to add little bits of the darker fuzz, you can. You can use your finger to smudge. This is just kind of shaded detail. So I'm using my finger. So you can see I did a little bit of water and paint, and I'm kind of smudging it around just to add some contrast down here to the goat's body. If you don't like the way this looks, you don't have to do it, but I'm just offering this as a suggestion. It's okay to smudge with your finger. We use our fingers in our classes. In these classes, we use paper towels. There's a lot of different ways to add texture to our paintings. It's just really about being open to the process. I'm just gonna add a little bit of fuzz kind of coming off the goat. I'm not gonna go too crazy with outlining here. So just follow your intuition. You can't do anything wrong here. You want to make a really furry or fuzzy goat, that's fine. I love this. Sue said that her goat looks like a lamb with Yoda ears. I love it. So fun. All right. So I have some really nice contrasted outlines. My goat has different colors on it, which I'm happy with. My eyes have some nice light and dark contrast. That's what I'm happy with in that regard. We're going to let the goat body dry. One thing you can add before we move, we're going to do the flower crown next. We're going to let our goat dry. But if you wanted to add one more thing, put a little bit of light pink inside of the goat's ears. It's just red and white mixed together. It's really white with a little bit of red. Just kind of, it will start to match. I'm going to paint like the entire, well, at least I'm going to add a bunch of light pink inside the goat's ears. You can decide how much or little you want to add inside. I love the little bit of light pink because it's going to match the red and the pinks and the flowers I'm going to put on its head. So you don't need a lot of the light pink in the ears. You can decide how much or how little you want to add there. You can also use a little bit of water to blend it in. But I'm basically doing it on the inside of these ears, like the lighter color on the inside. And if you add too much, you can always cover some of it up. So mine's wet, that's why it looks shiny. And I'll probably come in with a little bit of gray and soften some of that pink, but it's good enough for now.
Is that black that you used to outline the face?
No, it's a dark brown.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Well, the class is recorded for Bernice, who just joined us, so no worries there. I know folks are still working on the outlining detail and playing with the shaded colors. So I'm going to keep an eye on the clock. I'm going to give everyone 2 solid minutes just to play around with the goat details. And then we'll start the flower crown in 2 minutes. Okay. I just want to be, the flower crown is going to take us a solid 10-15 minutes. So I want to make sure we have enough time for that without rushing. But we could easily spend another half an hour just on the goat, just for awareness. We will not. And we could easily spend a half an hour on the flower crown, but we're not going to do that tonight. We're going to keep the flower crown nice and simple. I'll teach you how to add some basic colors for the flower crown. And then we'll do a simple depth technique for the flower crown. But if you want to spend more time after tonight's class to continue to refine some of these details, feel free to do that. Okay. So just know
Megan,
when the class
Megan?
ends, you don't need to stop painting. I just want to make sure that we're for courtesy of folks' time.
Megan, how do I make my goat not look mean? I'm
Ooh,
sure it's the
do you have
eyes.
angry
but
eyes?
yeah.
Okay. You can make the eyes rounder. Rounder eyes and play with the direction. So sometimes mean goats have like points on like the exterior of the eyes. Try making them a little rounder, or try changing the angle of the point.
Are you talking about the black part on the inside?
Yeah, so as an example, yeah, it could be, so if this looks a little angry, you can kind of just round this a little bit. Oh, ladies and gents, you can always add eyelashes to your goats too. That's also a really cute addition. But just making them a little more rounded here. Yeah, so if the exterior top left and right corners maybe a little more pointed, try making those a little more rounded. It's really a trial and error thing. Let's see. So, and then I'm just gonna add, yeah, making these a little more rounded. My goat's like really curious. There we go. It's kind of looking up, it's just kind of funny. But I'm gonna let it dry. Okay. So I am going to slowly transition to doing the flowers on the top.
Don't goats have rectangular pupils?
They, in the picture, I think it's hidden. They're, I would say you can do boxy, like eye sockets with rounded eyes inside. You could try that. They could be a little bit more boxy, but doing the round pupil, I think is important. That's why I did kind of 2 areas. I did like this larger teardrop shape, and then I added a rounder section here to kind of give it 2 dimensions.
You could
But
try doing
you could make your eyes more boxy, absolutely. So you could bring this up a little higher and make it more boxy versus like a full, your slant here could be different than mine. You could make it a little more boxy, absolutely.
Okay, everybody do a shot. Dumbbell for the eyes. That works good too.
A what?
Dumbbells.
Dumbbells. Yeah, that's a great idea.
And do another shot, man. Okay.
All right. So we're going to go to the headpiece next. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the headpiece so you can decide what you want to do. This is 3 large rose shapes, and then there's some kind of trickling colors on the outside. So I'm going to do, I'll probably do, I don't know, I might do 3 of the same colors and then do some white roses tucked in. So pick like one flower, primary flower color. This is like a hot pink color. And it's a really beautiful color. So I'm just gonna find a brush, any brush you want, that it's small enough. You know, small to medium size. This is a number 1. Let's see if I have a little bit bigger of a brush. That number 2 brush I was using before was a great size, and I'll show it to you what it looks like again. It kind of has longer bristles. It has a few more bristles than the other. And for me to make a hot pink, I'm basically taking my red down here, and I have a little bit of white. I'm just mixing a little bit of red and white together. And find a color that you like. This is the name of the game with all of these art classes you'll ever take. It's finding colors that you like, okay? So mix a paint color that you want to use for some of your headpiece colors. I'm going to keep it simple for tonight. I'm going to do 3 big hot pink rose shapes, and then I'll do kind of white flowers tucked in, and then some greenery. So I'm going to do 3. So I'm going to start with doing a couple of smaller petals in the middle. And I'm just going to slowly kind of work my way out. And I'm going to do 3 layers. So I'm just kind of tiering them on, and I'm going to fill this in after. It's going to overlap with the top of my goat's head. And I want you to be loose with your hand. So maybe hold your brush back a little further back. And I'm kind of building on layer upon layers. And then I want you to stop and see how big your flower is. So you can kind of play with adding in some layers. Then I'm going to stop. And that's just a flower shape. And then I'm gonna grab a little bit more paint. Maybe it'll be a little bit darker. Maybe I'll just grab some red. And I'm just gonna start to fill in these petals. Just pick a color that's a little bit different, a little bit lighter or darker. And there's a little bit of a darker purple kind of outlining some of these topper petals. But just start to fill with a different color, start to fill in some of these petals. I'm using like a purpley pink. I'm just being really playful here to kind of fill in some of these top petals. You can kind of outline a little bit. But I'm just going to have some fun and just fill in some of these petals. There's so many ways to paint flowers. One of the most important things of painting flowers is just using lighter and darker tones. But this is a great opportunity to experiment on how you paint a flower, how you create layers. You could use a little bit of a lighter color. Experiment a little bit. Try using a little bit of a lighter red. Try using a little bit of a darker red to see how those tiers, those petals stand out. And just do whatever comes to you here. There's a lot of different ways of painting flowers. I have some really dark colors happening. I'm going to paint over some of these. But I was trying to show you what it's like to do some lighter or do some darker shades as well. So if you don't like that, don't worry. Just let it dry. You can always come in with some lighter colors and just kind of do some outlining with some lighter colors too. And this is pretty dark. So I'm gonna let it dry and I'm gonna come back to it. And there's a lot of ways to create roses. You could do a little bit of a spiral, right? You could try for your next one. They're touching, so you can kind of play with, I'm gonna do 3 next to each other. Just
Megan,
have
can
some
you move
fun.
your picture down? Somebody is asking to see the original picture.
Oh, the original, sure.
Yeah.
So they're a lot lighter. So the original is just an inspiration, right? So you can do a little bit of a spiral for the center. And then I can lighten this flower. I'm just using like a darker red right now. I can always lighten this. So it's kind of fun playing with the outlines and the shapes first, and then you can always fill in. Again, there's a million ways to paint flowers, but tonight's technique is to really play with the outlining of the texture first, which we don't always do in this class. And I'm trying to balance, one side of the flower with the other. Imagine this being a headpiece. And I'm just going to show you kind of what we're going to do in a minute, but I'm going to create a couple of like smaller flowers. They're going to kind of like come out to the left like that. And kind of come out to the right. And I'll put some greenery on these, but you can see the headpiece I'm going to create. But be playful here on how you want to fill this in. Maybe I'll use a lighter color to fill in these secondary flowers. This is where you don't need to have a plan. You can just kind of be in the moment. I'm using a lighter pink for these other ones just to see what it looks like. And while this paint is still wet, they're all going to start to kind of blend together a little bit, which is really fun. So you're creating a headpiece, and this is kind of fun because these two are going to match on the outside. And I'm using just like a light pink to kind of follow on the inside of these lines. Now, again, this is not the only way you can paint a flower, but it's sometimes fun trying something different. And I like that I can see the layers and the tiers. And I'm just going in between the lines with a lighter color. Kind of fun, right? And if I wanted to like bring in any of this like lighter color, using just the tip of my brush, I can do that here with this big one too. But you can see I'm creating balance with this headpiece, right? Balance is good. I'm inspired to add like little mini pink roses too. So this is your headpiece. We're going to add the green last. I might put in a couple of little pink flowers up here on the top. Pink flowers meaning little pink dots here and there. If anybody's taken my classes before, I do little smudge marks and call them flowers. It's the abstract impressionist in me. But you can kind of just be playful here with any additional details. Little specks of color can appear to be a flower. But you can see what the lights and the darks are doing, right? So our approach tonight to doing the swirling darker color outline, it really creates the texture, like one textured way of adding flowers. And we really haven't done this technique much in our classes. So if anybody's been taking my classes for a couple years now, we probably haven't done this, which is kind of fun that new and miraculous things happen as we don't overthink it, right? If anyone has any questions, please let me know, but I'm going to move this down. I'll move my baby goat down so y'all can see it. And I'm just going to continue on. So I'm going to let my headpiece dry here. I'm going to get some green. I'll do some green leaves. This is where everybody kind of goes with their own flow for any remaining points of the class. I'm going to do some dark green leaves and some lighter green leaves. I may use this is kind of a green grass color. using a really tiny brush of your choice. I may make a darker green by using like blue and green mixed together. We could also do, you could also use black, but I have a blue-green right here, so I'm just gonna use that. But you can do some long skinny leaves. And I'm gonna do some in a dark green, and I'll do some with a lighter green. And I'll connect my little flowers here. You could always use a lighter green if you wanted to use a lighter green. I'm doing like long skinny leaves. But using a dark and a light will just add some really fun depth to your picture. And you can do as much greenery as you wish. I like using 2 different greens because it just adds some pizzazz. And I'm just starting on one edge of the crown and I'm just going to work my way over. So I'm using green and I'm using like a bluish green because I like the darker contrast. If you don't like this dark contrast, guess what? Just add a little bit of white. Look at this, and you can just lighten it. You can use a little bit of a lighter color. And I like to find balance. So I like to do a little bit of the light green here. I like to do a little bit of the dark green there. These leaves can be pointy at the end. Just do a little bit, work your way over. Make sure you're using the right brush. So this is where we just kind of take a deep breath along the way and we just say, hey, am I using the right brush? But use one color, add a little bit of it here and there, and then maybe try using a different color green.
It's so pretty the way it all comes together.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I think one of the biggest things is it's just being open to using different color variations to add depth to your painting. It's a big difference, big deal of just being conscious enough and being coached to use multiple colors because it will really bring your painting to life, right? By using a couple different greens. And the green in this case is making your flower crown look a little bit more natural, right? You're adding greens to this natural subject of, of a natural headpiece. For our baby goat, of course, or for our calves, or for whatever animals that have happened tonight here. If anybody wants to send me an email or text me with a picture of your work, we always love seeing it. And I love sharing it with the AARP New Hampshire team. And again, a big thanks to them. We would not be here tonight without their support. So be sure to, recognize that we're always so grateful to be here. And for you all to really have an opportunity to unwind and have some fun in a different way. But I want to thank everyone for being here. If anyone has to leave early, I totally get it.
So we had probably a couple of the late joiners are asking if this is being recorded and where it's available. So it is being recorded. It'll be available in a few days, and I'm going to put the address in the chat.
Terrific. Yeah, you guys do a great job of showing that information out. So you're basically going to do as much or as little work as you wish here on this headpiece. I like to have things balanced, so I want to have this come out just a little bit more over here on the left and on the right, just to make sure these are even. I really like how simple the headpiece is. There is some greens coming down into the forehead. If you wanted to add any little bits of greens. I'm doing long and skinny leaves coming down. You can alternate if you wanted to down here between light and dark colors. totally up to you. I love this. I have not painted a baby goat with a headpiece on before, and it's super cute. With a flower crown. It's so adorable. So I hope everybody's enjoyed this. If you have any follow-up questions, I have a contact sheet right here, which I'll hold. My email is here and my website, but I encourage you all to reach out via email. It's Megan, MEAGAN, at paintandsipvt.com. And I will also, that's really one of the best ways to get in touch with me. If you're interested in getting in touch. So if you want to take a quick picture of this, again, I know the AARP New Hampshire team loves seeing your work. So for anyone that has to leave early, please let me know. But I hope that you've enjoyed this. For everyone that joined, we did a light kind of color backwash on this. There's additional work that you could do with adding some grays around the eyes, doing grays around the mouth. I will take a minute to show you what the grays look like for anyone that wants to stay. Oh, and my email is actually MEAGAN at paint. You spelled my name wrong. I just don't want people to.
Sorry.
That's okay. Oh, and the eyelashes. Yes. So I'll do gray eyelashes too.
Yes.
What a terrific reminder of adding eyelashes. All right. So I'm going to do a gray color. I start with black and I'm going to add a little bit of white. And you can keep working on your flower crown. You can keep working on your goat detail. Again, there's no rush. Make sure you clean your brushes well along the way. I have green on this detail brush right now, and I don't want any green on my gray. So I'm just going to put a little bit more white. Okay. And I'm black and white will make gray. And it's going to be a darker gray. I'm so glad that folks had a nice time. If anybody has an opportunity, you can always post your picture into the chat window. You may or may not know how to do that. So don't worry if you don't. But I'm making a fairly, the gray I'm going to use is kind of a mid-tone gray. I'm just mixing that up here. We're going to do, I guess we can do the eyelashes first. So on the interior of the eye, I'm just going to do a dark outline, kind of like eyeliner. And I'm going to go around the eye. And I'm going to go up. So I kind of went up to the top and then I went around. And then I'm going to do, I have a really tiny brush. Just like a human's eyelashes, the eyelashes are going to start on the interior and they're just going to be little. But as you get going up, you can kind of add some longer. Now this is like a glamorous, I just turned my goat into a glamorous goat. I'm going to outline the eye pupil with a little bit of this darker color too.
So Megan, there's a question, did you say the June painting was sailboats?
Yeah, we're doing a summer sunset sailboat. It's going to be beautiful. Yep. So I'm kind of outlining the pupil area with this darker gray. And then it's really about paint management for these eyelashes. So the eyelashes on the interior are smaller and then they get longer and they can kind of curl up and in as you go. So I just turned a very calm baby goat into like a sassy baby goat. I'm here for you all though. I'm open to the sass that's happening here. Maybe a sassy evil goat just happened. I don't know. And your eyes can come out of your head a little bit. This is a little weird, but they can come out like on the outside of the head if you want. And then I'll probably, to make my goat look a little friendly again or less sassy, is I'll probably take a little bit of white paint and you can put a little bit of a white dot on the inside of the eye to make it look a little like more Bambi-like. Yes, Jessie, seductive, exactly. So a little white dot on the interior will make it look a little more innocent, okay? See that? I've just tamed my goat a little bit. And the nose, you can use the same dark gray. So great question. So the nose, you can do an outline around the top. And the nostrils are fairly round. So kind of like a cat's nose. It's kind of like a little rounded around those nostrils. And then you have a little bit of the dark gray coming down. There's some definite shading going on with some of the nose, but you can do kind of rounded nostrils. I'll make my nose a little bit gray, so I'm kind of going on top a little bit. There is a little bit of lightening on the outside of the nose, but you can use, I'm just gonna maybe paint the whole nose this dark gray first, and then we can lighten it together. That's probably the easiest thing to do. So if you want to paint your nose gray, you can do that with me.
How did you do the gray again?
I'm doing the gray for the nose, yeah. And we're gonna use a lighter color to
But how
lighten.
did you do the
to add the
gray?
depth.
I think she's asking how you mixed the gray. What was?
Black and
White?
black and white, yes. Yep. Yep, and you can outline your mouth with the gray.
And people are asking if they can already sign up for your next class now, but
Yeah, I don't think it's available yet, but we can take a peek. I'll go look online for it right now.
It
I outlined
is,
the mouth.
it's available.
Oh, it is available. Thank you. Awesome. So I painted my nose gray. I'm gonna let that dry for a hot minute.
Would somebody mind putting the link for the next month's class in the chat so that we could just click on it?
Yeah, we can do that. You got it. I'm gonna put a little bit of gray on the inside of the ears too, just kind of like outlining some of the brown. So this is where I was saying you can do a lot of different details with tonight's class. I'm doing a little bit of gray on the ears while my nose is drying. I haven't forgotten about that. So you can just see I did a little bit of dark gray. Some kind of fuzzy line textures on the inside of the ear. Look at the difference between the gray on the ears. Big difference, right? That's where you take a couple extra minutes. You can do some long, skinny lines to add some more contrast to these ears. I'm kind of doing it on the outside of the pink area. This little baby goat's coming to life. All right. Thank you, Marie, so much for joining. Thank you, Victoria. Let me go ahead and look up that June class for everybody.
Megan, I'm copying the same thing as May, but just putting June of 24.
Oh, did that work?
Looks like a direct link.
Oh, it did not work.
AARP.
I can find it on Google.
Class.
June 14th, AARP, New Hampshire, paint. Let's see. Here we go.
AARP New Hampshire June art class.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it here.
I think I just do AARP NH and it comes up. I registered like last week, so I can't exactly remember. So sorry.
No worries. I'll look for it as folks are playing with these details. Let's see here. I'm so glad folks had a nice time. It's so great meeting new people. Of course, I'm like stumbling here. New Hampshire events. Let's see, calendar. Oh, that's what we need is the calendar. Perfect. June 14. Well, that didn't work. Paint class. Usually I can find it. That's the goat. Interesting. I don't see it yet. But we can keep looking.
Looking at the same time.
I know. Hmm. Hmm.
It wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't out there yet.
I don't see it, but somebody else said they signed up, so I'm not finding it, but
Yeah, I
I'll just give it another
registered.
minute.
Let me
to look.
see if I can find it. Hang on.
Oh. Apologies. If anyone has any anybody has any questions or about final touches, please let me know. I'm here to help as I'm looking for the next class.
What is it called? Sip and art or art and sip?
Paint
or
and sip.
paint and sip. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking. Just taking me. I'm just kind of scrolling through all the upcoming events. Oh, the search isn't letting me search for it.
It was in the chat earlier.
Oh, was it? Okay, let's take a peek.
I thought I did the link and I got a 404 error.
Yeah, the link I clicked on.
Yeah.
didn't work.
When I clicked on it, it worked. So I don't know.
Maybe it's down or something. Maybe
Oh, is it
something's
the
wrong with
12th
the
or the
site.
14th? Oh, okay. Hold on, that might be the problem. It says 24th. Hold on, let's see here. Let me just check the date. It's the 12th.
Yeah, it's June.
Well,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
So if I click this and I do 12th, the link's in 24th.
There it is. Is it a something ox or something with the hat?
No,
No, that's a Christmas hat. That's November.
no. Let's see. We'll find
I
it.
put in the date.
The
It's
one
June
you just
12th.
put, that Jamie put in is working, just so everybody knows. If you go to
Okay,
Which
cool.
one?
Thank you. Let's find where Jamie's link is.
Yeah, that's how I found it. I just said
There it is.
new
Okay.
AARP.
Yeah.
There it is. I see it. Thank you. Yeah,
Yay.
that one does work. I didn't get an error. Thank you.
Jamie,
You're
high five. Woohoo.
welcome.
Awesome.
I knew it was
What I'll do is I'll go back to my Zoom screen here. Sorry for the tangent, everybody. So the final detail I'll show you. Jamie, thank you so much for finding it. I was obviously wrong date, wrong place. Once you have a gray nose, you can use a little bit of like a lighter gray and a white to kind of you can highlight the nostrils. So you can, oh, don't do that. I have water on my brush. Don't do what I did. You can highlight the nostrils, so you can kind of do like a little bit of outlining to highlight the nostrils. And you can even soften the nose a little bit if you wanted to. So I have water on here, that's why I just smudged. So don't mind mine right now, but you can highlight the nostrils. So the nostrils are darker is the trick. So the interior of the nostrils are darker and you have a lighter outlining. And you can kind of play with your texture here. And you can kind of soften the nose if you wanted to. I'm just going to play with this for a minute so it looks a little bit better. So it could be a dark nose with like light nostril outlining. But I want to thank everyone for joining. Most importantly, I hope you had a nice time. For anyone new that's here, I'm so glad you're able to join us. For any of our regulars, welcome back. I hope you had a nice time. Be sure to send an email and share your artwork with us. We always love seeing how you've done. As you know, we could spend much more time on some of these details, but we always have to kind of pick and choose what we spend our time on. If you have any follow-up questions, you want to show off your work to me, I'd always love to see your artwork. But I want to thank everyone for being here, and a big thanks to Linda for her patience and her support and making this event happen.
You're very welcome. You have
Thank
lots
you.
of thank yous coming through.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.